All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our monthly Director's Cut. Today, we will be covering production data from the month of March 2025. As always, we will be providing key updates on North Dakota's energy sector. Today, you will be hearing from the Director of Department of Mineral Resources, Nathan Anderson, as well as Justin Kringstad, Executive Director of the North Dakota Pipeline Authority. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Nathan.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to the May 2025 Director's Cut. I'll start by saying that 2 weeks ago, the leadership team here at the DMR had the opportunity to go out and visit the field teams out in Minot, Williston, Dickinson, and do ride-alongs with the staff out there. We really took the time to understand the challenges that the field is seeing, observed what's going on. We witnessed completion activities, rig tours, and just really took the time to connect with the field staff. So I want a special thanks to the field team at the DMR and the entire team for all the great work that they've been doing this year. Moving on to the data, like Kayla mentioned, May Director's Cut is for March presentation. As you can see in the numbers, March was a good month. March production was at 36,987,000 barrels, or 1.19 million barrels for the month. February was at 32,631,000 barrels, or 1.165 million barrels for the month. This number is 8.5% above revenue forecast, and it is a 2.4% increase month over month from February to March, or roughly 27,733 barrels per day increase from the month of February to March. On the gas side, March gas production was up as well, 106.6 BCF for the month, or 3.4 BCF per day. February number, 91.55 BCF for the month, or 3.27 BCF per day, or a 5.15% increase from the month of February to March. We'll note that February had the extreme cold temperatures, and so a rebound was expected during the month of March, but real nice rebound in production from February to March. Moving on to the next slide, North Dakota's county production. Not much change month over month here. McKenzie County increased a little bit on the month production to 10.9 million barrels for the month. It does account for roughly 30% of the production from the state of North Dakota. The top 5 counties represent roughly 95 or 97% of the production as well. Moving on to the rig count by state, total U.S. rig count was 578 currently. In the month of April, it was at 585. So we are starting to see a slight reduction overall. North Dakota's rig count is currently at 31. As you can tell, that's one rig drop from the month of April to April to May. And then 33 total rigs in the Williston Basin, with a couple of them in Montana. 285 rigs in the Permian Basin. There's been a slight reduction there. Roughly 50% of the rigs in the country are also in the Permian Basin. And there's 35 rigs in the dry gas play up in Northeast United States. The DMR does have indication from a few operators that plan to drop a rig over the coming months, so we're expecting the rig count to soften just a little bit, and most certainly related to soft prices and a little bit of a volatile price environment that we're in right now. Looking at the rig count by state, you'll see not much different, but North Dakota rig count again at 31. This graph includes only onshore rigs, but we're not seeing any significant rig reductions that thus far, just some softening in the rig count. Looking at rigs over time, 2 slides there. What's that?
This one's basin.
Okay. Looking at rigs in the basin, again, North Dakota at 33. U.S. rig count has been relatively steady. As mentioned, I do expect that to drop slightly due to pricing over the coming months. There's been a slight decrease in the Permian Basin last month. That's probably about it on rigs. Moving on to pricing. The big news, I think, is that pricing has softened and it remains somewhat volatile. Current WTI stands right around $62 a barrel. Henry Hub gas price at about $3.35. The North Dakota market for the month of March came in at $60.68, or a negative 13.3% the revenue forecast. So over on the revenue forecast production and under on the forecasted price. Current frac crew count in the state is at 14, and again, the rig crew count is at 31. Both rig count and frac crews, we expect to see a slight drop over the coming months, again, due to the lower price environment. Taking a look at permits and completion activity, wells permitted in blue on the graph are up slightly. The completed wells are down for the month of April while road restrictions were in place. Those wells waiting on completion were up as well. A little bit on the completion trend. In April, there were 43. As of yesterday, for the month of May, we had 45 mid-month. So most certainly that drop from April looks like it's trending up during the month of May, which should be a good thing. I've added the extended reach permits. As you can see in the lower right-hand corner, there's been 913 3-mile lateral permits to date. Those have primarily been issued within the last 5 years. So those 3-mile laterals have really taken off in the state. There's been 46 4-mile lateral permits within the past 12 months. So that's relatively new, and we're starting to see some production come in from those wells, and we'll report out on those when we have better data. Taking a look at the state's rig count or well count, 19,128. It again rebounded during the month of March from the cold weather that we had during the month of February. Number of inactive wells is steady, again right around 1,900 there. Moving on to completed lateral footage over time, not much has changed on this graph. The 2025 number has been updated. Operators are indicating that they are seeing production contribution from all the entire laterals, especially on the longer laterals. Probably a slight update on the U-shaped lateral update down in the lower right-hand corner. There's been 14 U-shaped lateral permits to date, and two of which are completed and online. Moving on to the FBIR activity, production is steady. The rig count is up 1 to 3 total rigs on the FBIR. We're seeing slightly more permits on the reservation, so that's positive. Most everything noted on the reservation has been a positive for the month. Now, I noted last month that there was a correction increase to FBIR production, and I'll just say that issue has been identified and resolved. Moving forward, the numbers that you see here are updated and correct. The statewide gas flared volume from February to March decreased by 21 million a day to 156 million. So the statewide gas capture is at 95.4%, while the Bakken gas capture is at 95.8%. So overall, I would just say that it's been a positive month from a production standpoint, not necessarily pricing. We do expect a slight decrease in rig activity in the future, in the coming months, and a slight decrease in frac crew count based on what we're hearing from operators in the field. And with that, I'll turn it over to Justin.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Justin Kringstad, Director of the North Dakota Pipeline Authority. We'll get right into an update of production from our neighboring states. Just like North Dakota, in the month of February, a rough month, Eastern Montana as well, we saw a slight decrease in production, which would be to be expected. South Dakota holding relatively steady with their smaller contribution there to the overall U.S. Williston Basin. We'll fast forward to slide 4 then, and we'll take a look just at those month-over-month changes. Obviously, the gas sticks out. You look back historically at 168 million cubic feet per day. That's a meaningful increase month over month. It's been several months down slightly, but again, when we look back historically, we keep an eye on these, and meaningful when we look at the overall gas capture picture. And then in the bottom section, we started to see that gas oil ratio move back upwards and continue on that upwards trend that we're going to continue to see now for many years to come. We did see some changes in the overall crude oil movements out of the Williston Basin, largely with some barrels getting onto the rail system. You'll see that here in a moment with some of the overall trends, but again, still the lion's share continue to stay on the pipeline systems, but we'll talk here in a moment about pricing, which likely pulled another 20 to 30,000 barrels towards the rail sector. On slide 7, then looking at those estimates, as I mentioned just a moment ago, about 30,000 barrel per day increase, up around 150,000 barrels per day, give or take, is the current estimate for those deliverabilities out of North Dakota. The Pacific Northwest, we'll see pricing here in a moment, but that continues to dominate. The appetite there for those Bakken barrels continues to be strong. This is February pricing, what refiners in each various pad district of the U.S. was paying. You look at that Pacific Northwest and Pad 5, $77.49, significantly higher than what we were seeing in the Pad 2 region, and then almost $2 higher than even that Pad 1 region. So again, that Pacific Northwest, not only the refiners hungry for that light sweet barrel like North Dakota produces, but the distance, the one carrier transport, the overall economics, yeah, it looked very attractive in that February timeframe, and which largely probably contributed to the incremental movement by rail out of North Dakota. We look at pricing here today. Positive in that Clearbrook area. I know we had a number of months where we had that Clearbrook market price down in a discount to WTI. I'm happy to say that it's back up at a premium as of today when I checked. So that's a positive indicator here going forward. You'll see in a moment we've had some rough net back pricing in the Bakken for a number of months. And so this is one of the additional positive signs that things are starting to move back in a better direction for the basin. And then you can see the other major indexes around the U.S. Slide 11, this is what I was just alluding to. In March, the discount to WTI for an average North Dakota barrel was $7.39. So again, noticeably down from what we were seeing in that 2022-2023 timeframe. I'm hoping that as we start to get to the April pricing, there's some indicators that April should see an improvement. May, I like to see that premium at Clearbrook, so I'm hoping that we start to see things trend in a better direction here with that pricing relative to WTI. On slide 13, nothing major or new to comment on the imports-exports component. Slide 14 on the gas, again, as Nathan mentioned, very positive sign. We saw a 1% increase in gas capture for that Bakken gas. That improvement came in that orange sector, which is flaring from wells that are connected. So that is our most challenging component here. That is locations that have a gas capture facility associated with them. It's just congestion and constraints on that system, not allowing all the gas to flow. So as gas capture companies, midstream companies put in additional looping work, compression, all kinds of infield efforts in order to minimize that amount of gas that's being lost in that flare pit. Slide 15, that's just the historical context. This is only the third month that we've had 4% flaring in the state. So again, this is a great signal. Slide 16, we'll keep an eye on there on the number, but nothing overly dramatic right now to flag as far as new wells coming online and new wells getting connected to gas gathering. Slide 17, the EIA took a further haircut to their overall price outlook. So not only in their May short-term energy outlook, but the second half of April, the EIA put out their annual energy outlook. And so that also includes a longer-term oil price forecast. That also had decreased their outlook for West Texas Intermediate over the long-term period. That will tie here in a moment to some of my outlooks that you'll see on the natural gas slides here in just a second here on slide 18. So if you took this graphic and you compared it to last month, you will see a depressed overall natural gas forecast here slightly. And that change has nothing to do with well performance or anything of that nature. It was driven almost exclusively by that decreased oil price outlook in those forward years. which would just then tie into the model on lower activity in those outward years. And so every year that's going to get updated, but that's just the current viewpoint. Obviously, they put that out in April. Pricing was not great, and so there's typically some bias in everything that gets done on what the current market looks like and then what it's going to look like in those outward years. On the natural gas transmission front, just some of the routine things we'll update here. Around 85% market share on Northern Border for those Bakken molecules. We'll continue to watch this trend as we enter the summertime. Hopefully we see some production increases ticking back up as we wrap out of the winter time frame and out of the spring time frame. Continuing to see midstream companies stay aggressive on their ethane capture, so that we're not seeing as much ethane into the residue stream, which is allowing us some incremental space to be available in that network. No new announcements here on the WBI Bakken East project. No new updates as of today on the intensity infrastructure project that we've talked about before. I do have one new open season to talk about. That was one that was launched towards the end of April 21st. That will wrap up here May 20th. And this is a combination storage open season as well as pipe connectivity to and from storage. And so if you click it one more time, there should be another, yeah, there we go. So on this map, what you're looking at in the southwest corner there, that is the Baker storage field. And so that is the North America's single largest natural gas storage field on a volume basis. One of the challenges with that storage field long-term has been connectivity to and from that storage field. It's got a tremendous amount of storage capabilities. It's the pipe connectivity component that has been most challenging for those in North Dakota to utilize it. And so this open season that's in place right now is looking to add about 10 billion cubic feet of natural gas storage, as well as the connectivity to and from potential interconnect with that Bakken East project that had its open season. And so we will see here in the coming weeks and months the results of those open seasons and to determine what the next steps will be for these pipeline operators as they look at commercial interest for these various projects. And so with that, I don't have any other material to cover here this afternoon, but I'd be glad to answer any questions anyone has on any of those topics. Want to take questions now, or how do you want to manage?
I think questions now is great. I'll see if there's any on.
I do just, if you could just explain what the legislature did in terms of their pipeline legislation.
Yep.
Especially with the natural gas.
Yep. So the question for those online, if you couldn't hear it, was what changed in the legislation related to the Pipeline Authority and its efforts to support natural gas development in North Dakota. So in the 2023 session, the Pipeline Authority has always had the capability to participate in a project by taking out capacity on that project. In the past, the funding was inadequate to do anything meaningful until the 2023 session. During that 2023 session, they added the funding of $30 million per year for the Pipeline Authority through the Industrial Commission to support natural gas projects by taking out capacity, becoming a physical shipper on those systems. And so it's not a grant program, it's not a loan program. It's a mechanism in which the state would actually take out capacity with the intention of releasing that capacity either to upstream Bakken producers or downstream industrial users. And in the scenario where that capacity doesn't get released over time, the state would then hire an asset manager who can use that pipeline space and market natural gas to minimize or maximize the value of that asset for the state. And so it's a way that the state can support a project on the commercial side, but legislatively the intent then is to get out of that position as quickly as possible, turn that over to the private sector. And so the change that happened then in this 2025 session was just a changing that $30 million per year to $50 million per year. So it gives a little bit more power behind the program based on the needs we were seeing from those various partners and projects that were noted here a few minutes ago.
So I'm understanding then, will that be more attractive, or will that be more of an incentive, perhaps?
Yeah, potentially. The higher funding level would allow the state then to take a larger capacity position. And so just looking at the projects at play and that general support from the state to move Western North Dakota gas to Eastern North Dakota and seeing what that need and what that level would look like in conjunction with the private sector. Increasing from that 30 to 50 million seemed like a strategic move, so that as more information comes out here in the coming weeks and months, the state's in a position that it could act if necessary to support the projects, to get them moving quickly.
And I think we talked about this earlier. I just wanted to go over a little bit that, you know, in talking to some people that I know, saying there has to be, you know, a solid customer for them to build the pipelines. Are they out there?
Good. Yep. So the question, are there solid customers? So when we think about the downstream market for Bakken gas on the projects that are being proposed, there's really two categories those would fall in. The first one is our new commercial and industrial users. So those would be power facilities, data centers, large industrial ag processing type projects. The second category of downstream are the interconnecting pipeline markets that exist. And so the pipeline systems that are being proposed to move east, interconnections with the Alliance pipeline to get down to Chicago, where there's, you know, again, a large market need, and or in combination with the Viking pipeline, which is just across the Red River. And so those two pipelines, so as commercial and industrial development continues in North Dakota, having that ability to have that offtake on the Alliance, having that offtake on the Viking. So even if all the industrial development happens in North Dakota, if there's turnarounds at those locations, if there are power facilities that are intermittent based on wind and based on load, you still have a market outlet on those pipeline systems to move that Bakken gas, so that the oil industry upstream can keep churning 365 days a year and doesn't have to throttle based upon what's happening just at these local industrial facilities.
You didn't update anything. There's no gas processing plant on the horizon at this point, or?
Correct. Yep. So no, nothing new to announce there. Yep.
We did have one online question, it's probably for you, Nathan. Could you give us any sense of how many rigs or frac crews are likely to be dropped? Any estimates, please?
So we've spoken to several operators in the state, and the ones there's been roughly 4 or 5 different operators that have indicated that either part of their normal business plan or low prices that they would plan to drop rigs. So, and that was any time over the past month. So if we were at 32 a month ago and you subtracted 5 off that, those are the ones that we know about right now. From a frac crew standpoint, I believe the number is roughly 2. That we have heard thus far, and nothing more than that. So, a little bit of softening in both the rig count and the frac crew count, which ultimately will likely impact production several months down the road. Over which time, hopefully, production rebounds and activity remains steady. But I think operators or I guess industry leaders are probably challenged right now to find certainty in kind of a volatile price market, and it's a little bit low. North Dakota break-evens have historically been in that $55 to $60 range, which is where we are at right now. So it's not too unexpected in kind of the low 60, high 50 price range that we've been in.
What type of operators are there? Are they like larger ones, more mid-sized?
Some of them have actually occurred. I guess the question was what type of operators are there, and it's both smaller operators and larger operators. But some of them are actually planned rig drops due to capital efficiencies, and some actually for mergers as well. Typically, again, I've said it in the past months, but when mergers occur, there's typically some type of capital efficiency or capital gain on the merger side that occurs, and that oftentimes does drive a rig drop or two. So it's actually both sides, all operators. We have smaller operators that have indicated that, and larger operators as well. So
The smaller ones more due to uncertainty, and larger ones because of mergers, or is it just?
I'm probably not able to really comment accurately on that. Each company has a different set of economics that drives, whatever the cost of capital might be, or where their acreage position is located at relative to the to the best part of the basin or weaker parts of the basin, or probably a kind of a myriad of things that affect that. So
So who is the largest operator in the Bakken?
the question is, who is the largest operator in the Bakken? I think it's from a production standpoint, it's Cord. Yeah. And then other large ones we have, Continental, obviously, we have ConocoPhillips, which is Devon, Exxon, so those are some of the larger operators. Am I missing any, Mark? Hess, did I mention Hess? Certainly a large operator in North Dakota. Yeah.
And there was just one other thing I just have to ask it because there was an impassioned speech on the floor of the House by a legislator who talked about that he was suspicious that oil companies were cutting back production in order to become, to pay less taxes, to become strip oil sands. Any truth to that at all?
The question was around operators that may desire to lower production in order to get their wells on stripper well status. And although I can't speak certainly about what their motives are, but I can tell you that the economics, myself and Mark and our engineering team worked on that during session and was able to provide a lot of data to the legislators, and the numbers came out to roughly 2 barrels additional production per day in order to accommodate for that tax break. And so in my professional opinion, based on years of doing this, no operator would do that. They would almost always optimize the resource, optimize the production, and go that route. That just makes way more sense financially to them. So although I can't speak exactly to their motives, to me, it doesn't add up. Most all of them, from my past experiences, optimize the reserves in the production first. Yeah, good question though.
Question. At the Industrial Commission, I think last month you talked about potentially letting companies drill but not complete. Can you sort of walk through that and what would sort of trigger that?
Yeah, so the question is, I mentioned at the Industrial Commission last month about a non-completion waiver, and that's right now the regulation is that operators have to complete their wells within 12 months of drilling, and a non-completion waiver would extend that some period of time. And it's actually something that we're actively working on. Mark and the team in the oil and gas division are actively working on that and considering that as well. So that would allow operators additional time to complete their wells. Essentially, drilling but uncompleting those for some period of time until oil prices stabilized a little bit.
What would be like the goal of doing that?
Hopefully keep rig. The question was, what would the goal of that be? And the goal, I guess, would be to hopefully keep rigs in the air and activity levels a little bit higher than maybe they would otherwise be.
Are there any potential negatives from doing that, or is it mostly just having all those?
Yeah, so the question was, are there any potential negatives from that? And the only real negative is that production would come on later, and so the tax benefit to the state isn't received until later. But quite honestly, you could be selling that production in a higher price environment anyway. So I don't see a real negative to that, as long as it's not years and years of a non-completion waiver, which isn't something that we're considering. We would consider a non-completion waiver for some period of time until oil prices rebounded to some more steady state price that would keep rigs operating.
What's the consequence if the company doesn't complete a well within the given time frame? Is it they just lose their bond, or?
The question was, what's the consequence currently if an operator doesn't complete their well within that 12 months? And I believe the status of the well changes, and they would have to plug it, so they would get a notice to plug that well, which typically isn't something that's desired. If they've drilled it and spent the capital dollars on that, they would probably get out there and complete the well sooner. Yeah. Good questions. Thank you. Anything else online?
Well, we have additional to that first question online. Any timeline on when the rigs and frac crew will be dropped and when production could start seeing impacts?
So I guess I don't need to state the question. The timeline that I've heard is anywhere from well, one rig has already been dropped to anywhere through August at this point. So some companies might finish the pad that they're on, and then, you know, if it's a multi-well pad, they'll finish drilling those and then drop a rig. But I don't have exact dates, but I've heard anywhere from, you know, now through the end of August at this point.
I do have one follow-up.
Mhm.
The legislature talked a lot about incentivizing companies to drill in non-Bakken areas. Have you had any inquiries on that?
The question was regarding to House Bill 1483, which was the bill that relates to non-Bakken incentive for the first, I think, 300,000 barrels of the producing life of the Bakken, or 36 months. And if there was any inquiries on that thus far, I haven't. I do have an operator that reached out today. I haven't checked the email, but it is from an operator that operates outside of the Bakken, and so I'm hoping that might be that, but nothing certain yet, Dave.